Hello, welcome to today's edition of the Academy. We're going to finish out Chapter 3, Sun Tzu's Art of War, with sentences 17 and 18. There are only 18 sentences in the chapter, so it's pretty short. But I think these two actually do apply pretty well to the tabletop, or at least us as wargamers. So, I'm just going to start reading sentence number 17. Thus, we may know that there are 5 essentials for victory. He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. He will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. He will win whose enemy is animated by the same spirit throughout all its ranks. And he will win who, prepared himself, wants to take the enemy unprepared. And he will win who has military capacity and is not interfered with by the sovereign. Okay. So those are 5 essentials for victory. The last one doesn't really apply here because we don't really have a political someone in the background telling us what we can or can't do militarily here. So let's ignore that. So we have actually 4 essentials on the tabletop of victory. And I'm going to take them kind of in reverse order. Okay. So the 4th one, he will win who, prepared himself, wants to take the enemy unprepared. So this is very situational. Oftentimes need to be able to understand the opponent's strengths and weaknesses, maybe even the not necessarily just the opponent's army, but the opponent himself. And then do things that that player and that army aren't prepared to deal with or deal with well. It could be the army themselves or the army the way it's been built for that particular game. So a little hard to apply that one on a consistent basis, but it takes practice to learn and decipher your opponent's weaknesses in such a way that you can identify areas where he is unprepared and you can be prepared. Alright, so let's go into the 3rd one. He will win whose army is animated by the same spirit throughout all its ranks. Now, this one doesn't really apply real well on the tabletop, but I'm going to offer that it would actually apply where you have a tabletop game that requires multiple players on a side. Because if each player on that side is motivated to play that game, play that scenario out, your team has a better chance of winning. Now, if one of them isn't really, let's say they're doing poorly, they kind of lose spirit, maybe they don't particularly care for anything that's going on. There could be a number of reasons where it's a player, 1 or 2 players might just kind of lose their edge. Okay, that's going to make it harder to win. So watch for that in in team games, whether it's a team tournament or team-friendly games. Okay, remember, teams can apply in different types here. There's team where you've got one battle board and multiple players on each side. There's another team I've seen in tournaments where you have multiple players acting independently, fighting different battles independently, but they're all coordinated on this. They're working for the same team. Their points are pooled together to how well is that team working. The same applies there. It's just what you don't have in that particular case that you do have on team boards is you don't have the dynamic of interplayer conversation, interplayer support, confrontation, because that's a reality, confrontation, and coordination, especially advice giving left and right, reinforcing and supporting each other's fire or bad position. Someone gets heavy pressure on one side, his buddy left or right can actually divert some of his focus to help bail him out. So that's something you don't get in the team tournament setting where you got individuals playing for a team score. Alright, so that's how 3 can apply. It just doesn't apply across the board. So let's do 2nd. Because this one actually I think is the crux of this video. He will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. Now this is actually one of the reasons I build lists the way I do. I love to win just like everybody else, but I also like to be challenged. There are many individuals throughout history who have taken what have been deemed to be an inferior force and done spectacular things with them. The list is very, very long, and I'll let you do some of the digging on that yourself. um, I'll probably mention some of them in my list building videos that I'll do in the future. Because again, I firmly believe in this. If you want to be a good player or tabletop general, you really want to be able to handle not only the superior force that you can put together, the take-all-comers list, the fluff cheese list, if you will. I shouldn't say fluff, but the cheesy list, the super-powered, best of everything kind of list. Yeah, it's fun to play that and win, but it doesn't make you a good general. If you take the not-so-strong units, the not-so-strong combinations, not-so-strong armies, leave the cheese at home kind of thing, and still be successful with those, or if not successful, hold your own and give your opponent a real run for their money. Again, there's a lot of games where it's going to be hard to actually win with an inferior force, but you can certainly put the hurt on an opponent and keep them from having a greater victory than they normally would. Playing those inferior forces helps you also learn new concepts, learn new maneuvers, new potential responses to enemy threats, and potentially learn new threats to the enemy that you may not have considered before. New ways to address weaknesses on their side or things that they would not expect. The classic example of inferior, get good with the inferior, is the Necron Tomb Blades. No one likes to use them, or liked to use them. They were not purchased because they were feeble. Now, there's a reason to, and when people were forced to have them in their lists to get benefit of formation or whatever, they realized, there's a way to use them to make them good. No, they're not they're not an OP unit, but they're definitely capable in the right hands and the right scenarios. So that's what you can do by practicing with these inferior forces. Now, the first bullet here is the first essential for victory as listed. I'm going to bring it to a very fine tactical level to apply it. It's he will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. Now, across the table, the whole reason you're having a game is to fight units to fight, right? It's kind of pointless to not fight. However, let's look at the tabletop as a series of smaller engagements. There are times you're not going to want to fight. You do not want to engage in combat. Other times you will. The best example I can give of a time not to fight was a mistake I made. Instead of going on to my next objective, I decided to stand and fight, or stay and fight. And I could have won the game had I taken my raider with Cavalite warriors in it, and instead of hanging back by my objective and trying to shoot the opponent off, adding my fire to a bunch of other units that were also doing the same thing, I should have shot him across the tabletop all the way to the other side, 48 inches away. Yeah, I couldn't shoot that turn, but I would be within objective securing distance. And even if he popped the raider, I still have Cavalite warriors available, holding an objective and winning the game. I shouldn't have fought, but I did, and I made the mistake. Okay, in a recent battle facing Eldar, I got put off my game real quick because it's entirely my fault. My opponent came at me with jet bikes, pressed close. Nothing wrong with that. Jet bikes aren't that bad, but of course the shuriken cannons, they can damage armor, and the rear armor especially. Chimeras have, sorry, not chimeras. My conquerors, annihilators have rear armor 10, so they could easily jump behind them and shoot them up, take them out. But had I thought about it and not panicked and pulled my units back, I stood, pulled back, fought the jet bikes. I should have instead pushed them forward, ran into the unit, tank shocked them is the term, and forced them to hopefully fail a morale check and run, but if not, at least move out of position. And I could have put my vehicles in a position such that the rear armors could have been protected from each other, so the opponent could not get a good shot on me. And I would have been that much further up the field, applying pressure like the units were initially tasked to do. The whole reason I put them in my list was to push forward and take that objective. I should not have fought there. I should have pushed forward all the way and not done what I did. Okay, so there are times you have to really assess the situation and know whether you stand and fight or whether you use that unit to do something else. That's how I would apply that particular sentence to the tabletop. Alright, so now the last one, sentence 18, is hence the saying, if you know your enemy and know yourself, you will need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. It's a wise way to end that particular chapter. The gist of this is very simple. Study your enemy, study yourself, study the way you react to the situation on a tabletop. Whether it's, because you can potentially maybe facing different armies and react differently to each one. How do you react to the stress? How do you react to certain units? Know yourself, know your ability and how you play a game. So you can watch for those little mistakes you could make and prevent that falling into that standard response pattern. You want to you want to respond instead of react. Okay. Now, know your enemy. Now, I really enjoy playing a new faction playing against new factions I know nothing about. I want to go in that first game not knowing a thing. I personally enjoy the surprise of, oh wow, that unit can do that? Oh bummer, I wish I had known that kind of stuff. I don't mind losing in situations like that. I learn well by actually experiencing the losses in combat. But, after that first brush for a new army, and you can never have that again, right? So you only have it once. So once that's out of the way and I had that fun, then I go and I start studying that army. I may not own it, I may never collect it, but I will study it. What is it capable of? How do people generally use the units? What are the weaknesses? What are the strengths? How will they compare against mine? Study, battle reports or forums and how they handle the different, combat against different armies, how different armies handle that unit, that army, and learn from that. Study them so that you can know them, hopefully better than your opponent, but not likely, but still, if you know them as well as your opponent, that's great. You will do very, very well. Now, if you don't bother to learn either yourself, you just kind of go to play, again, it's great to have fun playing, but don't expect to win a lot if you're not really trying to study your army, yourself, or your opponent's army. Okay? So, that's what Sun Tzu has to say about those things. Honestly, I think that's good advice. So, hope you got something out of this, and that will close chapter 3 with this video. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks again for sticking around. Share, like, subscribe, leave me comments below on what you might want me to cover in the future. But next time I'll see you, we'll be talking about chapter 4. Alright? See you later. Bye-bye.